that could be a shark or something. Or exactly the great white. You know, I'm gonna read this description. Although the descriptions in this game for these fishes, they only talk about the fish themselves, or fishes themselves. They don't talk about, like, them. They don't really give any hints about the game's world building or anything like that, like they do in Nier Automata, which is why I don't read these typically. But yeah, as example, in Nier Automata, like, many of the fish descriptions in the game actually, like, enrich on the world building of that game, which is the reason as to why reading those, as well as almost any description item in the game is. Then again, exospines and gears in this game are another thing that I should maybe read at some point, some more, because those actually give some, like, somewhat valuable and intriguing insight into, like, Tetrastar's Eidos Company, as well as Orca Aerospace. The great white shark is one of the largest predatory fish in the world and is known as the top predator of the sea. Sharks grow until they die, so there are records of individuals exceeding 7 meters in length. A very skilled hunter, this shark hunts prey quietly and quickly. Actually, let's take the exospine into account. Let's see. The body used by the airborne squad... Actually, you know what? I'm gonna read these... Okay, Actually, wait, I should read from the 2-star, because I have all of the 2 stars, yeah? Maybe I don't have all of these 2 stars. Let's go to 1 star. I have all of the 1 stars for sure, right? And they probably repeat dialogue, let's see. Training gear. As gear modules became more modular, third party. It starts like that. Training gear 1. Yeah, they have the same description, so... Yeah. Shortly after the first gear module was released, many accused the company of selling tiny bits of scrap metal for hundreds or thousands of dollars. Once it was realized that the price was actually a great bargain, Eidos Company became a platform leader overnight, as well as an icon of user centricity and innovation. Tetrastar originally opposed the form factor of gear modules in sockets. The company was concerned that cheap and easy gear modules would lead to cannibalization and adversarially affect sales. However, as the modules became extremely popular, the demand for nano-elements soared, and Tetrastar's profits skyrocketed. The CEO who originally opposed this was fired without a second thought. Ah, these have very similar stories on them. The first two there. Someone asked Orca, Prophet, why don't you use any gear modules? Orca replied that the devices should be given to those who truly need them. He also replied that he only plans, advises, and meditates within the presence chamber. Many people believe this to be true and praise the elder spirit of selflessness. Right. Can the Naitibas even use gear, like gears, you know? Gear modules. I guess not. Maybe that's why. Ever since the beginning of its hardship, Zion has been guaranteeing citizens' rights. Theft had become a common occurrence as tax were attached to gear modules owned by citizens. Before the colony extinction, no one would have imagined such a situation. It's thanks to the reality of the collapsed world filled with monsters that made it possible to get anything done without such devices. Okay. When the colony extinction occurred on Earth, the hyperdrives mounted on each colony module exploded, emitting massive electromagnetic pulses. Okay. Now this is actually useful world building this here. Electronics and devices that weren't adequately shielded were instantly turned into scrap metal. Gear modules weren't exempt from this either, so you'd be lucky to find a module that wasn't just another piece of metal. What? How does an electromagnetic current or pulse turn other metals nearby it into just, you know, pieces of scrap metal? Okay. Units have descended to the surface several times, resulting in equipment that has been abandoned, lost, or left alongside corpses. Some of the equipment retrieved by the scavengers reach Zion, causing an uproar. Are gear modules used by the angels, sacred relics, just pieces of equipment, or are they cursed? What? Okay. In Zion, the memory sticks of deceased are placed in the memory chamber, while the body is scrapped. Devices like... wait, what? Or I mean, yeah, it houses the living as well as the dead, of course, yeah. Because the memory sticks are in the memory chamber, but the presence chamber is... wait, what? So the presence chamber is where the living are, of course, and the memory chamber, which is the one where the hyperdrive is, that's where the dead are, yeah? The bigger room where the hyperdrive itself is. There are no family members. The Sentinels will take the devices. No one has ever objected to this rule, since 80% of the dead were Sentinels in the first place. It is a lot. Wow. 80%? Okay. I wonder if the Legionnaires turned into the Sentinels. Because the reason as to why there is such a high or such a big majority of the cities and the Sentinels, or the disparity between the two, is exactly because the Sentinels themselves must have had like some kind of like strong like inclination or reasoning fundamentally as to why they prefer to, you know, stand guard and be like the standing like militia, I guess, inside Zion, or in, you know, places of, you know, human habitation, you know, as frontier. Or as the bastion, I guess, between them and the citizens, yeah. So those could actually be old Legionnaires that actually survived the colony extinction event. But that also means that they must have lost, like, their memories as well. So maybe my idea about the Legionnaires not losing their memories, maybe some of the Legionnaires lost their memories, or maybe all of the Legionnaires lost their memories, you know, same as the Sentinels, and maybe all of the Legionnaires that we find throughout the game, even at, like, somewhat, like, complexing or perplexing times during the timeline of the game, maybe those are just, like, somewhat conveniently, like, in the black hole of time, or in the void of time in this game's world building, where the, like, memory, like, wipe event from Mother Sphere had barely or just about was about to occur, which is the reason as to why it can be sometimes very hard for me to say if some Legionnaires, for example, lived exactly at the same time as some other, like, Zion members, or some other, like, Eidos or Eidos Company androids. But at the same time, Matrix 11 has a lot of Legionnaires that actually talk about, like, contemporary events, like, somewhat nearby the game's, like, current time, where the 7th Airborne Squadron has taken place in. Because it is said that the Matrix 11 collapsed very recently. So when we play through Matrix 11 ourselves and we find the corpses of the Legionnaires, for example, like, those Legionnaires are talking about, like, the collapsing of the subway station themselves in their memory sticks. So that means that those Legionnaires must have actually lived through both the extinction event, and they must have also lived, like, long past it as well. So doesn't that mean that those Legionnaires should have also lost their memories, you know? But I guess it's not exactly confirmed if it's either way true. Maybe they did lose their memories, but, like, there's no memory sticks from those Sentinels in, like, Matrix 11 that, like, kind of expose the idea that they never did lose their memories at some point during the memory wipe event from Mother Sphere, when she disconnected everybody from the network, from the Earth, you know, or from Earth. That makes it more difficult. Zion enjoyed prosperity for about a decade after its establishment. During that time, junk dealers used gear modules as a sort of currency for important deals. Now that people live with the scrap metal they get from tearing down buildings and dismantling existing machines, they can only dream of such prosperity. Okay. Are we gonna get to see the city of Zion prospering in the next game? Likely not. But we're probably gonna see a lot more, you know, Sentinels and citizens walking around for sure, with hopefully more interesting, like, side content. Hopefully more, like, more side content with you know, carefully like scripted or written characters that are actually interesting, or the stories themselves that they are telling. Depending on its intended use, body firmware became... Wait, what? Came in different types. The range of normal operations for gear also varied for such firmware type. This meant that you couldn't just pick up a module and use it. It was the painful reality faced by the citizens of Zion, who were dumped on the ground empty-handed. Are those like refugees, maybe? Is this referring to them being refugees from somewhere else? They were saved by the Legionnaires or the Sentinels, maybe? Or are they referencing the idea that Mother Sphere dropped like some androids, like androids down to Earth in the surviving cities of like, you know, her like centers of humanity for this like Eve protocol like scheme that she's built, or Eve protocol project that she's carefully overseeing above. Could be either way, really. In 2043, engineers at the Eidos Company aimed to develop an efficient modular gear expansion design. Who would have known that this would be helpful after the war ended? There aren't many devices like this gear module that can help you survive in this wasteland. Or the wasteland. 2043, I mean that... If Raphael Marx was already in commission by 2043, then he's probably older than 100 years old. Like, this game's timeline takes place somewhere in, like, 2150 or more, at least. Because the Mother Sphere and Raphael Marx were developing their human instrumentality plan, or so we kind of deduced from earlier as well. Like, they were working somewhat in a tumultuous, but also somewhat harmonious, like, relationship still, during, like, the early, like, 22nd century. So that is, like, 60 at least years from this point on, when Mother Sphere, like, there's this, narrator that we hear in the Hall of Records much earlier in the game in Eidos 7, that talks how humanity faced a new challenge at the start of the 22nd century, where... Actually, wait, was it 21st? Wait a minute, was it 21st or 22nd? Fuck, No, 22nd is too... Wait. Is it too late? Is it 22nd or 21st? I think they might be talking about 21st. I think it was maybe 21st. So this would actually be already at the time when... No, Mother Sphere is not fucking up at this point. Fuck no. Is it? You're telling me that Mother Sphere and her enhanced species of humanity that she was developing in secret with Raphael Marx, they were just keeping that, like, they just laid low, I guess, and didn't, like, raise too much suspicion. Civil unrest and all that for like more than 60 years at least, probably like 80 years if this timeline. I don't know about that. I need to see that cutscene again from... Or maybe I'm gonna check it after the stream actually. You know what? I'm gonna listen to that narration literally right the fuck now. Why do all of these stop here? There we go. Right, now we have somebody. Let's see. I need to confirm this. Okay, so my mic was muted. Anyway, I was correct. It was 22nd. I don't know, like that was... Anyway. Yeah, it would have been very strange if both Mother Spheres developed artificial intelligences were also living for like 70 or 60 whole years before, you know, Mother Sphere decided to be a bit more direct with her approach of making sure that her enhanced humanity was the one to survive, you know, and thrive on Earth. It would have been a bit strange, yeah. But it is the 22nd century when Mother Sphere, you know, took reins and changed, you know, or created the enhanced species of humanity that is able to, you know, withstand the changed atmosphere and the inhospitality that Earth was slowly becoming because of only establishing carbon neutrality, you know. Some extreme climate change and, you know, weather changes and all that stuff, you know. So now that we have checked that board out, we can go next. The Airborne Squad's combat manual recommends matching the exospine with its appropriate gear module. With an emphasis on a flexible handling of situations, mastery of all devices is a major doctrine of the squad. This means that there is no right answer or set standard in battles with the ever-changing IT bus. Okay. The double-edged sword is a major doctrine of Scion's century. Scion cannot afford to fight small battles at this time, so the IT bus must be defeated quickly. As such, the Sentinels have their gear modules set up in very extreme configurations. Holy fuck. Captain Man is running probably a few of those long. Yeah, he's not. Bonus fixed damage upon combo attack. Modular gear expansion designs have been implemented in various fields, including military gear. The military gear uses state-of-the-art technology from the Orca Aerospace Company, and each module costs millions of dollars. It's currently a must-have device for all Sentinels in Scion. Eve's blinking is fucking distracting me. I don't know why I became so conscious about it while I was reading this at this time, but I don't know. I need to just ignore it. Shortly after the outbreak of the Liberation War, all of the Eidos Company's ground production facilities were shut down. Amidst the chaos, the facilities were ravaged by looting and destruction. Unsealed modules, chips, and parts were found all over the place. Because so much had gone missing, a kind of blessing in disguise when you look back on it. Outbreak of the Is that what they call the second to the final war? The Liberation War? Why do they call it that if humanity lost that war? I mean, I mean, that's the humans, like, humans declared the name for that war, but they lost the war. Yeah. Sad. Worried about gear sockets that are exposed outside. Gear sockets are rated IP99, which means they are waterproof, dustproof, and protected from radiation electromagnetic pulses. Mounting gear modules is a mechanical procedure that is also used for authentication. Authentication. What the fuck? Authentication. What the fuck is? You mean authentication? Authentication? Authentication. What? Authentication. What the fuck? All data and energy from sockets and gear modules are transmitted wirelessly. Well, maybe not anymore. The airborne squad is equipped with universal firmware customized by Orca Aerospace Company. Thanks to this, there are no problems attaching any device or using any terminal or system. Mission operations can be continued using spare gear modules or supplies nearby. Hey, that actually is somewhat interesting. Like character or world building, you know? So we can thank Orca Aerospace for our beta and body cores, huh? Seriously? No, wait, what? No, that's different. That's Eidos Company, of course. So Orca Aerospace is... Wait, what? I mean, Orca Aerospace is probably responsible for, like, the connections to space or the network connections somewhat. But that's like Tetrastar's thing, you know? Like, the network security are like Tetrastar's thing. Abandoned by Mother's fear, the survivors on Earth had to do whatever they could to survive in the wasteland. They often made unauthorized modifications, such as implanting chips in the gear modules or soldering jumper cables without adequate equipment. Occasionally, the devices were made more useful, but very rarely. Gear modules were also suspected of being wiretapped or having backdoors made by large corporations. Of course, none of this has been officially verified. The media denounced people who made such claims as conspiracy theorists, portraying them as idiots who would put anti-electromagnetic post stickers on their gear modules. I don't think that that's such a silly thing. When you have to rely on anybody else's technology that has been somewhat like devious with their motivations in the past, I think there's always a good reason to be like skeptical, of course, even if you can't like prove that there is some kind of like malpractice present somewhere, you know? The maximum number of gear sockets supported by major manufacturers such as the Eidos Company, Orca Aerospace Company, and Tetrastar is 4. The reason for having standard number of sockets is very simple. Having more than 4 sockets overcrowds the back area and hinders the aesthetics. Hinders the aesthetics? Where do they go? Do they go in their heads or something? Gear modules communicate directly with the artificial intelligence through a dedicated port on the expansion socket. While the modules are designed with performance benefits and ease of expansion in mind, there is one problem. If the gears are forced out of the sockets, it could cause data corruption or even bring down the entire system. What this essentially means is if you destroy the one who wields these, the system is also brought down that they are connected to, and they are able to, you know, well, I mean, I literally just said it, connected to, both like networking wise as well as like, what's the word, like nervous system wise, you know, unlike E-protocol members for one example. When science scavengers retrieve scrap metal from the wasteland, they shred through large chunks of iron by hand and cut them with cutters. Scavengers fear that delicate and expensive objects such as gear modules and nano-elements will be damaged if they use machines or tools. As a result, this type of work is often very dangerous and slow and has taken the lives of many. I can see that. Some gear modules had a bug that caused the shield condenser capacity to be misread. Orca Aerospace Company marketed the bug as an intended function and avoided recalls by signing non-disclosure agreements with developers who worked day and night to fix it. Okay, can we get some of those? I mean, these are the successful ones because they actually increase the shield, right? But there's apparently some that actually take it away. You know, like the, you know, what is it, the skin suit, for example. As gear modules become wildly popular around the world, they also became a cultural phenomenon. People began to recognize these devices as must-haves, much like clothing, and began to think having empty gear sockets was like walking around naked. Okay? Were these gear sockets used by organic humans? Like, is that possible? Like, the thing with the gear sockets is that, like, from the world building aspect, is that they are kind of like implants or expansions of the mind that just make certain actions more easier to commit on, you know? So like, these could actually be implemented probably on organic humans too. And that's probably their intended use was that. And then they were also like, you know, modular enough where they could also be used in the, you know, Androidos and Eidos Company Android bodies as well. I can see that, sure. As gear modules become more modular, third-party compatible products that were not certified by the Eidos Company began to appear. Among such gear, there was a suspicious item called Artificial Intelligence Amplifier that supposedly improved performance. This was one of the events that triggered the Eidos Company to start whitelisting wearable devices. Okay. Makes sense. And now we go back to fishing. That felt like it took an eternity. Right, I need 2 more fishes and then we are actually gonna go. Yeah, those were actually... You know what? There's still the exospines. Of course, there's also like... Wait a minute, there's some... Children born on a starry night, this is a great experiment and a challenge. Can we open the way to the future by ourselves? Wait, what? Actually something useful? Something useful for the world building of the game in the fucking nanosuite description? What the fuck? No way. This is a great experiment and challenge. Wait, what? This is quotation from Mother Sphere. Is Mother Sphere teasing the idea that the facilitation or the facilitation of the Eve protocol or Eve project in the first place was actually created by Raphael Marx, and then Mother Sphere was the one to enact on Raphael Marx's like project or experiment? That's a wild fucking theory, holy crap. Children born on a starry... Do all of these planets... I need to read all of these, what? Children born on a starry night, go forth and fulfill your mission. May you never forget the passion in your heart. Our future is in your hands. So this one is a much more innocuous one. But this one that you get from Roxanne, on the other hand, that is much more open-ended one. It's much more exposing one. This is also very different. Or a bit different, I mean. Children born on a starry night, go forth and fulfill your mission. May you always fight back with an indomitable spirit, and may your future bloom in your hands. That one is also quite innocuous. So is this one. Yeah, this is also very different as well. A glorious mission begins. Illuminate Earth as beacons of hope. May you forge a path to the future. Yeah, those ones are also quite innocuous ones. Can I see if we find something more directly from Mother Sphere? That sounds like it's a reference or a quotation from someone. Well, from someone that is very important to the story. But none of this Nikkei stuff is. Okay, so those ones were. The hairstyles are definitely not, by the way. Yeah, no way the hairstyles, fuck no. The earrings, I highly doubt that. I mean, the suits of... Actually. The one who looks at the stars is the first to realize their destiny. All of these talk about scavengers. All of Adam's suits. Yeah, the exospines, of course, have some unique... Yeah, should I read these? I mean, I'm gonna read them only once, yeah? Introducing Exospine Module, an innovative and powerful expansion device. Does it look hostile? The Exospine Module employs Tetrastar's ultra-fine quantum nerves that are designed to effectively extend artificial intelligence and capabilities. Gear modules provided a successful custom experience, but their performance was limited. As a result, Eidos Company worked with its partner Tetrastar in order to produce low-level APIs and devices for higher-level modding. The motto for the development was change everything that can be changed. Right, so this is something that was only for, like, you know, Eidos Company androids and Eidos androids, of course, and their droids was, you know, these Exospine expansions that were much more like, heavier in the way that you can modify them compared to, like, the gears that presumably even organic humans were able to, like, somewhat use as well. The final war became a hellish, all-out battle, and Mother Sphere requisitioned all the corporate infrastructure of humanity. Most of the bizarre equipment planned and produced at that time was lost when we were pushed off the orbit. Things like exospines that ignored design philosophy and focused only on improving combat capability. Wait, what? I read that last part wrong. Things like the exospines that ignored design philosophy and focused only on improving combat capability. Okay. In the fall of 2050, at the Eidos keynote, CEO Rafael Marx introduced the latest exospine module and praised himself, saying, okay, well, this confirms that Rafael Marx or Adam is at least 100 years old. Actually, no, he's more than 100, because here he has to be a fully grown adult, of course, so we have to add a minimum of 20 years and however many years he had to work in order to become a CEO of Eidos Company. So we can say that he was likely in his, anywhere from his like 30s to maybe even 60s during like this time, I would say. Or actually, wait. I mean, how old was Adam or Rafael Marx when he first, like, fused with an Alpha Naytiba body in order for him to essentially gain eternal life? Or, well, so it seems anyway, because of how he physically looks, you know? He looks incredibly young, like in his 20s, maybe 30s, somewhere there, you know? He must have, like, age reversed when he fused with the Naytiba, you know? So maybe here Adam is possibly in his 40s or 30s, and maybe he just lived very old, up to like, you know, maybe 90s or 100s or something, and then he just reversed his aging by fusing with the Naytiba, or a Naytiba, during like the final war. We have started making our own teachers, who in turn make even better teachers, and adjust and replace them accordingly to our tastes. Mother Sphere, she was watching the scene in real time through the network. Wait, what? Okay, so this confirms a few things. Mother Sphere was already a creature that Rafael Marx had created or was developing right here in 2050s. Wow, so the amount of time that the enhanced humanity, or at least Mother Sphere, worked in, you know, as an assistant, I guess, to Rafael Marx was actually a longer amount of time than I thought. Like, they were working together for, I would say, maybe 60 years at least. 60 or 70 years before, you know, Mother Sphere may have gone rogue, possibly. Or maybe her upbringing or radical beliefs were facilitated by Rafael Marx. Maybe her creator was to blame on this one. The deepening economic supremacy of mega companies centered on value chain monopoly sparked resistance. People were especially critical of the Exospine module, saying it had very chips. They could say that big companies such as Eidos Company, Tetrastar, and Orca Aerospace Company slyly use and dominate machines to change human lives to fit their tastes. Very chips. What is a very chip? I'm assuming that's got to do something that changes your psyche, or like personality in some way, your decision making at least, or state of awareness or something like that, you know? Something that affects the psychic capabilities of the person wearing such device, I guess. Quantum nerves built into the Exospine module can affect an AI's subconscious. It's no exaggeration to say that it's buried deep inside your brain. allocations and wiretapping implementing backdoors and AI manipulation by megacorporations have been raised, but the media has surprisingly not shown the slightest interest. I wonder why the last part of this. Media has not shown the slightest interest. What a massive regret that was from, you know, the contemporary people living in that time. Maybe it was because they were developing it in such secrecy that that's why people weren't interested. Oh fuck. During the final war, the lack of supplies forced engineers to gather whatever scraps and broken gears they had to create new modules or exospines. Though it seemed foolish to do so, the engineers had no other options out in the field. They simply didn't have enough time to wait for new equipment to drop from orbit while they fought swarms of monsters. So this is from... oh, fuck. Which side is this from? Is this from Mother Sphere's side or is this Eidos Company's side? From the orb. This has to be Mother Sphere's side, right? Because Mother Sphere had already like... Wait, listening through the network. I wonder if Mother Sphere was always in charge of the space travel or the space colony. Maybe Raphael Marx like... designated like that like space to Mother Sphere's development, like the space research with Orca Aerospace. Use Orca Aerospace as like a vehicle or like a vehicle in the middle, you know, for like you know, transmitting and receiving information between Earth and, you know, space. And then they also of course help with the distance, of course, as well as the, you know, transportation and that kind of stuff, as well as, you know, the gears and the exospines, particularly the gears. So it seems foolish to do so. The engineers are no other options, but yeah, this is obviously from Android's side. As with the gear module, exospine modules provided innovative features with the launch of improved models. It meant that it was reborn as a true AI upgrade device. However, no engineers from Eidos Company or Tetrastar could understand the neural code built into the devices. This was because it wasn't written by humans in the first place. Right, so does this mean that all of the exospine materials were created by Mother Sphere? Or maybe some of the subordinate artificial intelligences that, you know, Mother Sphere herself designed to be even more efficient, that created or constructed the exospine blueprints? As humankind's manned Mars development plan was being pursued, adaptation, survival, and coping with extreme environments emerged as a hot topic. The extent to which the body's homeostasis was manipulated through... Okay, homeostasis, by the way, for somebody who doesn't know, it is the... how do I explain this in English? It is the metabolismic balance state of certain, like, individual that is living, to put it in a simple manner. So, like, for example, my homeostasis right now, being in this extremely hot room, is not very excellent, is it? You know? Because, like, you know, it's too hot in here, I'm gonna fucking have a heat stroke, you know? I need to go outside. So my internal balance on both, you know, maybe not on my mind, but in my, like, you know, inner, like, organs, you know, anatomy or metabolism is, like, not in perfect balance or harmony with the environment. That is kind of how you can use that word. Anyway, was manipulated through the exospine and the ability to recover. Making people forget about pain was considered great. The only known side effects were strange body sensations, recovery errors, and some known AI errors. I mean, that only works for, of course, the Eidos Company androids as well as the Eidos androids, of course. Like those, like... like those, like, pain receptor like mufflers, I guess we could call them, or numbers. Those did not work for humans, of course, because they couldn't wear them. Only the artificial intelligence machines that those were designated for were able to wear those. Not just anything. By the way, I have never actually read all of the gears and all of the exospine descriptions in this game. Like, it takes an exceptional amount of convincing from a game, or an exceptional amount of boredom from a game, or during playing a game, for me to read, like, most, if not all, descriptions on items. Like, I have to feel like I have literally, like... Not only do I have to value the product a significant amount, but I also have to strongly believe that there is something actually interesting there, rather than just some, you know, some occasional, like, contemporary anecdotes, like what they are mostly built in most games. Of course, there are some very great examples of where this is not the case. Nier Automata being one, or any of From Software's games being one, where, like, you know, most of the stories inside the game, the world building of the, you know, story that you are experiencing inside the game, can only be learned through the item descriptions in the game. But then there's games like Lies of P inside the Souls formula that are much more direct. I guess Stellar Blade is also kind of like that. But the Lies of P would be one example where the story is a lot more direct for a Souls-like game. So you can actually kind of understand the story in that game, like, much more easily. It's much more easy to digest, rather than just having to, like, hypothetically, like, have these different, like, thought experiments of what could be, you know? When the game is much more definitively telling you how things are, or where, you know? You know, one game where I'm actually kind of interested to read some of the notes as well would be 2018 God of War and God of War Ragnarok. Oh, there's the last fish. Arowana. Nice. I have never read all of the descriptions in those two games either. And there's a very simple reason for this. The reason is not because I did not like the games enough or something. No, I love the game. Both the games, in fact. But that's exactly it. The gameplay in the games and the story, the music and all that stuff is so great that I cannot fathom being able to stop playing the game and just, like, you know, read. Stop doing what you're doing and just read something for, like, the next few minutes.
Thank you for coming here with me.
Like, that is just a concept that
The pleasure is mine.
has become more interesting to me the older I've gotten.
Bottom of your heart.
That's quite simply it. The older I have gotten and the way I play games a bit differently has made me more interested on reading stuff.